What's up, everyone? I'm Zach. This is Adherent Apologetics. This is part 3 of my response to a YouTube atheist who responded to my 36 questions to ask atheists. I highly recommend you to check out the other videos before you watch part 3. The link to the full playlist in the description. But let's get into part 3.
Do you lack a belief that God exists, or would you say that God does not exist?
Now, it depends on what you're talking about. I lack belief in all gods because I have seen no evidence whatsoever that any gods actually exist. But there are plenty of conceptions of gods that are logically contradictory or wholly irrational, and those gods, by their very conception, cannot exist. So, both, maybe. Depends on your specifics.
This response I really don't have too much of a problem with. It's more of just a setup to the next question. Most atheists, like him, lack a belief in deities regardless of whether they are monotheistic or polytheistic. I think one common mistake that atheists often make is that they group together the polytheistic deities that you see in religions like Hinduism with the monotheistic belief of the Christians and Jews and Muslims. There is a huge difference between polytheism and monotheism. So let's keep it rolling.
Do you just lack a belief that Zeus exists, or do you believe that Zeus does not exist?
Zeus is every bit as possible, theoretically, as your god. Again, depending on concept. Now, if you insist that Zeus is a real, physical entity that sits atop Mount Olympus, then no, that Zeus isn't real because we can test for it and prove it isn't there. But you can very easily redefine Zeus to be an intangible, invisible, undetectable deity, just like the Christians did with their God. Remember, God used to be visible and walked with Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Then, people realized just how silly that was, and their definition of God changed. If you want to redefine Zeus into something akin to the Christian deity, then I simply lack belief in that formulation.
I agree with him that Zeus is theoretically just as possible as any other polytheistic deity. And I also agree with him that the Zeus we see in Greek mythology is not real. My issues with his response begin with his claims about how the Christians changed their view of God. He claims that Christians branded their God as invisible, intangible, and undetectable. God is not made of physical matter because he created physical matter. If God was just a material being, then he wouldn't be anywhere near the monotheistic, all-powerful being that Christians believe in. Also, God is tangible and can be reached. If you want to find God, ask with an honest heart. Get on your knees and say, God, if you're real, show me, and you will find him. God is also detectable, as there are plenty of good reasons to believe in God. Now, he is right that God walked with man in the garden with Adam and Eve, but Christians don't believe that God stopped walking with man there. In fact, all throughout the Bible, we see God interacting with humans. We see God speaking directly to Moses through the burning bush, to Isaiah as he enters the throne room of God. And in the New Testament, we see God take on the flesh in the person of Jesus. You can doubt whether or not God exists, but there is no reduction to the power and presence of God as the Bible progresses. So let's keep moving.
If you just lack a belief that Zeus exists, why are you centuries behind the rest of the world who says that Zeus does not exist?
Why are you so far behind the growing majority of humans who accept that your silly imaginary friend is nonsensical? Seriously, and this is very commonplace, but this guy is asking questions, then he's trying to shame people into answering the way that he wants his questions answered. But theists, by and large, are dishonest or ignorant, and I have no idea which in this case. Stop trying to steer the conversation. Ask something and let it be answered honestly.
There are many nations where the percentage of people who are atheists, particularly in the United States and in Western Europe, are increasing. However, Christianity is growing as well. The Oxford Handbook of Religious Conversion estimates that around 15.5 million people convert to Christianity annually. This is in contrast to the 11.7 million people who leave Christianity every year, but this results in a net gain of about 3.8 million Christians through conversion every year. In addition, the Christian population is expected to grow by about 34% from 2015 to 2060, which is a faster growth rate than the 32% population growth of the world. However, the religious unaffiliated community is expected to grow only about 3% in that same time frame. So in truth, atheism and agnosticism are actually statistically on the decline, not Christianity. The point of asking why people just lack a belief that Zeus exists was not to shame anyone. The purpose of doing so was to make the point that with just about everything, people believe it exists or they believe that it does not exist. Then, once again, he says that theists are either dishonest or ignorant. Now, I don't know if that helps you sleep better at night, but that's just not true. Not only is this an either-or fallacy, it's also just wrong. Just because someone disagrees with you doesn't mean that you are right and they are this dumb, uneducated, blind person. It doesn't matter if you are a theist or an atheist. If you think everyone on the other side is just dumb or a liar, then you are way too biased to make an honest assessment of the evidence. So let's keep going.
Do you act according to what you believe or what you just lack a belief in?
My actions are not predicated on gods at all. If the religious would simply disappear off the face of the planet tomorrow, and wouldn't that be nice? But my actions wouldn't change because my actions have nothing at all to do with religion. They have to do with rationality and critical thinking and objective reason. So, nice try there, but stop being dishonest.
So he says it'd be nice if just the religious people just disappeared off the face of the earth. You know where the devout Christians disappeared? Nazi Germany. Communist China, Stalin's Russia. Those were the most murderous regimes in history. And before you say that they were Christians, just know that they killed the Christians. Christians would never kill Christians because they are Christians. I know we have all the wars that occurred after the Protestant Reformation, but these are a lot different than the genocides that occurred in Nazi Germany and Communist China and Stalin's Russia. They're very different things. Also, in response, he says that all of his actions are based off of critical thinking. One of the top rules of critical thinking is to not just call everyone who disagrees with you dishonest, but he does this all the time with theists. Where's the critical thinking there? So thanks for listening, guys. This is part 3 of the response. There'll be more parts to come. I'm Zach. This is Adherent Apologetics, and I will see you next time.